Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, let's discuss about the Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is a very important CI tool usually used in almost all the companies. Okay, so let's get started. I have uploaded this PDF in a description, in a link that I mentioned in the description, and also in the link that I mentioned in the comment section. So please explore. Okay, let's get started. So what is Jenkins and why do we use Jenkins? And what do we need to understand with Jenkins? Okay, we use Jenkins for continuous integration and for continuous deployment. Okay, so what exactly is a continuous integration? Continuous integration is nothing but a combination of continuous build plus continuous test. Okay, whenever developer commits the code using source code management tools like Git, then the CI pipeline gets the change of the code, runs automatically, build and unit and perform unit test. Okay, I'll go at very high level. Okay, since I have already covered everything in the PDF, please go through this. Okay, and then we have talked about the CI server, and then in the next section we have talked about the continuous delivery and deployment. Okay, in a subtopics we have talked specifically about continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Okay, here you can see we have explained each stage of a CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so we have talked about version control, we have talked about the build stage, we have talked about the unit testing stage, we have talked about the deployment stage, and then we have talked about auto test, and we have talked about deployment to production. Okay, and then after understanding all these terms, we can easily understand the term Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is an open source automation server where it provides hundreds of plugins to support building, deploying and automating any project, and it is platform independent and usually used for CI/CD. Okay. And these are the steps to install Jenkins. And this is an alternate way to install the Jenkins. Okay. In the next section, we have seen on how to create a new job or the task. Okay. In the next section, we have talked on how are we triggering the Jenkins job. Basically, we triggered either manually or automatically. One via GitHub hook and by building periodically and through poll SEM. Okay. So what exactly is webhooks? Whenever developer commits the code, that change will be automatically applied in the server. Okay, for this we use webhooks. Okay, so we have discussed on how to add webhooks from the GitHub. We have discussed on how to schedule the jobs, and we have discussed on how to build periodically, and then we have talked about poll SEM. In the next section, we have talked about the difference between webhooks, build periodically, and poll SEM. Okay, in the next section, we have talked about specifically related to discarding the old builds or the previous older version builds. Okay, in a server, if you want to see the build history, how will you do that? And if you want to see the log information, uh, what we have to do? And we have discussed about the parameter types. Okay, so there are many parameters. We have talked about the Boolean parameter, choice parameter, file parameter, string parameters, and multi-line string parameters. And in the next section, we have talked about on how to access the private repository in the Git. And we have talked about the linked jobs. And then we have talked about the upstream job and downstream jobs. And we have talked about the creation of pipeline in freestyle. And then in the next section, we have talked about the master and slave architecture. And then we have talked about on how to set up for master and slave. And then in the next section, we have talked about the user management in Jenkins. Under this, we have talked about the role-based strategy. Basically, we have three main roles, right? So developer, tester, and DevOps. Okay, we have explained everything in detail. And then we have talked about the project-based metrics authorization strategy. In the next section, we have talked about the Jenkins pipeline and the types of pipeline, freestyle pipeline, scripted pipeline, and declarative pipeline are the three different types of Jenkins pipeline. What's the difference between freestyle pipeline and what's the difference between freestyle and pipeline words? Okay, and we have talked about the scripted pipeline syntax and declarative pipeline syntax, and yeah, the stages of declarative pipeline. In the next section, we have talked about the single stage pipeline. In the next section, we have talked about the multi-stage pipeline. In the next section, we have talked about the variables. There are two types of variables, global variable and local variable. We have elaborated the information on global variable, and we have elaborated the information on multiple global variables. And then we have talked about the local variables. In the next section, we have talked about the parameters pipeline. Under this, we have talked about the string parameter pipeline. And then we have talked about the Boolean parameter pipeline. And then we have talked about the choice parameter pipeline. In the next section, we have talked about the input function pipeline. And then you can see we have written a real-time scenario to understand on what will you do in that particular situation. Whenever you are doing the deployment, this input function we have to give to a approval manager. So manager check everything. If everything is correct, he will click on OK. That is, he will approve the deployment. Here, how we are giving the permissions means we are using the role-based strategy, and for all managers, we have to give fully build perform permissions. Okay. And then in the next section, we have talked about the post build actions or functions pipeline. Okay. So post build will always verify for the following conditions, like is it always, I mean three types of conditions: success, failure, and always. Okay, we have elaborated each block. Okay, and the notes continues. Yeah. Okay, I hope that's all. Okay, so I have given this PDF in a link that I mentioned in the description and also in the comment section. Please do check out. Jenkins is really helpful for interviews and also in the real-time industry level projects. Okay, so thank you so much for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview. Stay tuned for more updates. Happy learning and happy testing. Okay, if you're looking for complete full stack QA automation or SDET interview preparation kit, please do check for the link in the description and also in the comment box as I said earlier. Thank you.